Okay, anyone who hasn't muted themselves, go ahead and mute. Good morning, guys. This is April Travis. I'm a Platinum with Young Living, and today we have a very special guest, Dr. Benjamin Perkus. And I want to tell you a little bit about him. But before we do that, we always start with our prayer. So get your abundance and your gathering out if you have them. If not, go along with us. And you can put the abundance wherever you like. Rubbing it in your hands and cupped around your nose is always good. Lord, today is an abundant day in every way. Thank you for blessing us so we may bless others. And then gathering. Thank you for blessing us with the people you wish to be in our Young Living family. Thank you for gathering to us those you wish to bless into our Young Living family. All right. So today's guest, Dr. Benjamin Perkus, is a clinical psychologist. He's been in practice for 20 years, and he's worked with Young Living essential oils for 15, almost. He lectures internationally. He was at a convention recently, and he lectures on such topics as emotional balance, brain wellness, personal fulfillment, and transformation. He and his wife, Elaine, are Young Living Platinums also. And after years of experimenting, he designed a very simple system that anyone can use to break through barriers in personal and or business with great success. So the results been published in his first book. It's called the Aroma Freedom Technique, and that's AFT for short. I love the subtitle, Doctor, of your book. It says, using essential oils to transform your emotions and realize your heart's desire, combining psychology and aromatherapy. I love it. And here's Dr. Benjamin Perkus. Take it away.
Okay, April. Well, thank you for having me on your call, and thank you, everyone, for sharing your Saturday morning with me. Let's see. So, first of all, I just want to give you a little bit of background of who I am, how I got to where I am, and I'm going to be demonstrating this technique for you today so you can have a really good feel for it and hopefully give you an idea of how you can use it in your life as well. So, as April said, I've been a psychologist about 20 years or so, and early on in my career, I did some advanced training in trauma therapy, EMDR. Have any of you heard of EMDR? I'm just curious how it stands for eye movement desensitization reprocessing. Well, this is a therapy that came out in the 90s, and it was found that when a person was focusing on a traumatic memory, if they had a flashbacks or nightmares, things like that, and if they moved their eyes back and forth as they were focusing on that, it seemed to reprocess the memory, and it helped it to kind of break it into chunks and process. So very amazing therapy, and I learned that. And over the years, I integrated a lot of other things. When I discovered the essential oils, though, I discovered that I could do the same thing with the oils as we were doing with the eye movements, that by smelling the oils, when focusing on a traumatic memory, it would seem the memory would soften, and it would seem to not be as intense, and more positive beliefs would start to happen. So for many years, I've taught that technique. And Young Living, as she mentioned, I've spoken at convention, and they even sent me over to Japan and Southeast Asia to speak on this technique, and it's been really good. But this last trip, I was over in Singapore, and I was really getting an inspiration that I wanted to create a technique that people could use for everyday life. You know, we still want to help people who've had trauma and who've had these, deep disturbing memories. But really, when we think about it, haven't we all had things that have happened to us that have been unpleasant? And haven't we developed negative beliefs, negative thoughts, negative attitudes based on those things? Of course we have. So I developed this technique as a way of working through those little things and how they affect our minds and how they interfere with the things we want to achieve in life. Just give you a little example of how a belief that is started when you're very young could really affect you for the rest of your life. I had one client I was working with who, he was about 60 years old, and he was single, had never been married, never had a family, and we were talking about how he felt like he could never quite meet a woman and form a relationship, and he just never felt good enough. And we got working with him, and it turns out the memory that came up for him was he was in kindergarten and he had a crush on this redheaded girl. And the trouble was, so did 3 other boys in the class, also had a crush on the same girl. And sure enough, one of the other ones somehow became her boyfriend, whatever that means in kindergarten. But he had developed this belief that he wasn't good enough. He wasn't good enough to get the girl, to have the relationship. And so we worked with that memory. And that always struck me as an example of things that happen throughout our lives that create our inner landscape, if you will. And this really determines what we think we can achieve in life. So as I was putting together this technique, I wanted to find a way to address all the different ways that we get stuck. And so the book goes into some of that. You'll see some stories of, how we develop our beliefs based on negative experiences and so on. But the core of the technique, and I'll go through the steps and you'll kind of see as we go here, is eventually we get back to a memory. We get back to a time when we first felt some sort of pain. And we get stuck when we've had an experience and we aren't able to express the pain and we aren't able to get the response we need to resolve it. So what happens is our energy gets stuck. And in brain language, we'll say that if it was an upsetting or a threatening memory, we'll say that our amygdala just keeps firing and it never processes. So this creates these little pockets of resistance, you could say, in our emotions. And when we talk about having emotional problems or people that are getting angry all the time, it's usually because there was some times when they were angry that they either didn't express it, or they weren't allowed to express it, or they didn't know how to express it appropriately, or they expressed it and something bad happened. But in any case, so whenever they would feel anger, something inside locks up and doesn't allow that energy to flow freely. So another example is maybe doing poorly in school, on a test or something. A person may develop a belief that I can't do it, I'm not smart enough. And then years later, maybe a person's trying to grow their Young Living business and they're looking at the comp plan and they're thinking, I can't understand this. And there's a resonance and energy there that is stopping them from understanding it. And it's because it's reminding them too much of a painful experience that they had. Now, the thing is, these things are all happening subconsciously. We don't know this is what's happening. We're just thinking that we're stupid, or we're thinking that it's too confusing, or we're thinking that they should make it easier to understand, or whatever it is. But the reality is that our energy gets locked up when we have these things going on. And we all have these things going on. And in the book, I talk about several of the blocks that I had to break through as I was writing the book to be able to complete it. So it's something that I use every day. In fact, when I came back from Singapore, this was only in April of this year, I just felt inspired. I came home, I told my family, I said, guys, I'm going to the library for about a month. So you're not going to see me. I'm going to write a book. And I challenged myself to write a book in 30 days. And so I started writing. I was writing a little here, a little there. And I looked at it and it felt like it wasn't coming out quite right. And even at that time, I wasn't expecting to write to develop a technique. I thought I was just going to share some of the things I've learned, like I've been sharing with you. So I said, this isn't going fast enough. I'm going to write a book in 15 days. And I said, and I'm going to do my technique. So I created my intention. I'm going to write a book in 15 days. And so I identified the negative thought, and it was something like that. Well, that's impossible, or nobody can do that, and a feeling of whatever it was. I don't even remember what it was. And then I smelled my oils, which I'll show you how we're going to do this. As I was smelling those oils, something shifted in my brain, and I started feeling like, well, that's no problem. That's just 10 pages a day for 15 days. I mean, how hard is that? And I came out of that, and it's like this energy started moving through me because I had released that resistance, which was just a mental block that said you couldn't do it in that amount of time. And then everything just flowed really beautifully. So the main part of the book was done in 15 days because I already knew all the information. It was just a matter of getting it out. And then, of course, I had to work on, once that was out, I didn't realize there's a whole editing process. You have to find ISBN numbers. You have to do a cover. There's all these other pieces that I hadn't thought of. So every time I would go and I would feel like, well, what do I do now? I did the book, but what's next? I would do that technique again, and I would clear away any resistance. And it's just been an incredible flow since then. And so the book, I had a deadline because I wanted to have it done by convention. which I did. I brought it to convention, I shared it, and got people started on it there. And it's just been an amazing flow ever since then. So the technique is, okay, I've done this a few different ways before. What I'm going to do, I have the screen now?
Yes, you should.
Okay, so I'm going to pull up, hold on here. We don't have time to go through a whole PowerPoint, so I was trying to find a slide that would really kind of capture most of what I'm talking about here.
Perfect.
And let me see if I can just find it now. So it's going to be.
I love what I'm hearing so far.
Great.
We have 17 people on, 19 now. Wow.
I did a call yesterday, and at that call, I didn't do a presentation, but everyone there had already read the book, so so I just took everybody through the technique all together, and maybe we could do that another time. But since you guys don't know anything about it yet, I wanted to give you a little more understanding of how this goes here, and then we'll do our demo.
Perfect.
Okay, so I have a Word document I think that I can share. So I'm going to. Where's my Zoom meeting here?
I know where you're at.
You know the feeling, right?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so there's Zoom, and here's share screen, and I'm sharing this, I believe. So let's see what comes up. Okay, so you guys should see a Word document now. Do you see that?
Yes.
I don't know how clear it is, if you can actually read those or not.
We can read them. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So there's 12 steps, and so I'll review what the steps are. Now, what the book does, after the background of going into how we get stuck emotionally and how the sense of smell affects our memory, because this whole technique is based on the fact that that the sense of smell, as you've heard, is the oldest smell. It's the most primitive and the most emotionally potent smell, sense. So that when you smell something, you can't help but feel something. So for instance, if you take some leftovers out of the fridge and they've turned bad and you smell it, you recoil. You cannot help but feel disgusted, right? Mm-hmm. Or if you smell something that smells delicious, you can't help but start to salivate. It's automatic. So we use that idea when we're focusing on a upsetting memory. When you're stuck in that feeling connected with the upsetting memory, and then you bring in the sense of smell, it pops you out of that. You can't stay in that. And so it uses that very idea with the oils. So the 12 steps, first step is to setting an intention. And I go in the book, I go into some tips for setting intentions, wanting to make it something that you want that maybe feels just a little bit out of reach. So whatever it is, maybe it's I'm going to achieve silver by December, or I'm going to sign up 3 new people this month, or I'm going to have harmony in my marital relationship, or something that you want. It comes from your heart, you want it, and you just feel like you're not totally sure. So you set your intention, and you're going to rate how likely that feels from 0 to 10. Now I have people in the beginning, you can smell valor or grounding, but to be honest, I don't actually do it that often. That's mostly for people that are feeling really shaky or nervous and they just need to be settled. Usually I'll do something like clarity oil, because that just helps you really get focused on what you want, to really get clear on what you want. And then this is a key point. You say that intention, and then you're going to listen for the negative voice that tells you that can't happen. And we all have what we call the inner roommate. It's that negative, that chatter that goes on. Sometimes it's positive, sometimes it's negative, but there's constantly a chatter going on in our heads. So when we say something, we're going to have a voice. If we're not totally resonating with it, we're going to have a voice that pops in that says, no way, that's not possible, or you don't deserve that, or you failed last time, or it could be a memory of a time when something bad happened. Whatever it is, you notice that, and then you look for how you feel when you hear that negative voice. And that's a key question, because we're so used to just getting in our heads and trying to argue with that voice. Yes, I can do it. No, you can't. Yes, I can. And it gets crazy. So But when you tap into the feeling of how do you feel when you hear that negative voice, then you're starting to get into what the resistance is. So you might feel depressed or frustrated or angry, whatever it is. And then you find where you feel that negative feeling in your body. And by bringing it down to your body, it helps animate and activate that feeling very intensely. And then once you've found it in your body, and this could be where you feel it in your body, like in your head or in your solar plexus or your belly, or it could be a posture. It could be a, like feeling shrunken or feeling smaller or eyes downcast, whatever you notice. And then you drift back to an earlier time when you felt the same way. Could be recently or long ago. And if you're guiding someone through this process, and you'll see me do it, I'll ask it just like that. Drift back to an earlier time when you felt the same way, either recently or long ago. And inevitably, a memory, 95% of the time, some people have trouble with this, but most of the time, a memory will surface. Could be from when you're 10 years old, or it could be from last week. Whatever it is, that's what's meant to come up. So you start drifting back, and all of a sudden, you're connecting with an earlier memory, we'll say, when you're 10 years old. Now, it's at that point, when you're in that memory, you're remembering this time when your brother criticized you, and so you started feeling bad about yourself. You're focusing on that. That's when you smell your oils. Now, the memory release mixture, this is something I used to use Trauma Life oil. Some of you may remember Trauma Life. It was a wonderful oil. It's been out of stock for a long time. That's what originally got me searching around for something else. I did the research. I looked at the effect of different oils on the brain, and especially on the amygdala, which is the fight or flight part of the brain. And I was able to find 3 oils, all from the starter kit, which is good for reasons we'll talk about. So you're going to take a drop of lavender, stress away, and frankincense. You're going to mix them together, just 3 drops in your hand. Or what I do, I have my memory release mixture, just as I put all 3 in one bottle, and that's my mix. Put a couple drops in the hands and smell. And you smell the oil as you're focusing in on that negative memory. And what happens is pretty amazing. It takes about 30 seconds to a minute, not very long, but usually, and I'll tell the person, notice what happens to the image. Sometimes the image will start to fade or change. Sometimes a new thought process will start to come in, and you want to be looking for that. You're looking for the new attitude or thought process. So it could be something like, oh, I can do that, just like what I had when I was writing the book. Oh, that's not a problem. It was a new energy that came through. I was working with someone just the other day who was, I was teaching her this technique, and she was feeling like she had read the book a couple times, and like where she read the book and she was trying to do it. She says, I can't do it like you can do it. So I took her through this process, and I said, so what image do you get? And she just got this image of that I was really big and she was really small, and this feeling of that she just can't do it because she's not me. Well, she smelled that oil, and within a few minutes, she said, Dr. Perkus, vanished. And she was there, big and strong, and had no problem, and could do it. So sometimes the image will shift. And but you also want to notice, what is the feeling? And it's the feeling in your body that's really important. Usually people will feel kind of a softening, a releasing, a kind of settling. The energy kind of just settles away. That means that the emotional charge from that memory is starting to dissipate. And so you notice the new beliefs starting to emerge. Sometimes you'll get a spark of creativity of, here's something that I want to do. Then you go back and you state your original intention. You go back to the beginning. So maybe the original intention was to become proficient at this technique. In her case, that's what it was. And then she sees, and now she says, oh yeah, that's no problem. I know I can do that. And then step 10, you create an affirmation that expresses this new positive belief. Once you've shifted the energy, then you want to put it into a present tense affirmation statement, which most of you, I'm sure, are familiar with affirmations, and I go through in the book some guidelines for how to create them. Present tense, positive. And then you're going to say the affirmation. You're smelling, I like to use either Believe or Transformation oil, but here again, it's a very flexible technique. You can substitute oils that you like. And then you're going to stand in what's called a power pose. And this is something that comes from the research of Amy Cuddy in Harvard. And she found that people, when they are, when they stand for 2 minutes in a pose with, say, arms out, either like a Wonder Woman, hands on hips, or arms out for 2 minutes, she tested them. It raises testosterone and lowers cortisol levels. And she did a fascinating study, which I mentioned in the book, that college students who were the research subjects for this, they were told, half of them were told to do that, to stand in those power poses, and the other group didn't do that. And then they all went into this mock job interview and just presented their best self to the job interview people. And overwhelmingly, the job interview raters said they would pick the people who had done those poses, but they didn't know who had done the poses ahead of time, and they weren't doing the poses during the interview. There was something that happened to their energy and their confidence level before they even got to the interview that really showed. So I incorporate this in here. Once you're in that positive mindset, you're anchoring that with that posture. And then there's a chart in the back of the book that you copy and you fill out every day. You put it on your fridge, so morning and night you're doing your affirmations. And this is reprogramming your subconscious mind. So, and then, step 12 is to make a plan and take action daily. And, because it's really important not to get stuck at just the affirmation point and somehow assume that the $1 million will come because I'm affirming that the $1 million will come. It doesn't work that way. But when you get into the right mindset, then you're able to do the work that you need to do to fulfill whatever you want to fulfill without that inner blockage. So, so that's the 12-step process that I put together. And let me just pause there for a minute. Okay, I'm going to stop the share so I can see you guys again. Okay. So you guys with me so far?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Amazing stuff.
Great. Okay. So this is the basic thing. And what I'm going to do is, I think what we'll do is I'll go ahead and demonstrate this with someone today, and then however we want to do questions afterwards, we can go from there, and then I can tell you what the different options are for how to learn the technique, and I have some ideas on that too. So who is our volunteer today?
Stephanie, can you see Stephanie?
I can see her, yes. Can we unmute her?
Stephanie, go ahead and unmute.
I'm unmuted. Good morning.
Good morning, Stephanie. How are you?
I am good. Thank you.
Great. Okay. Thanks for agreeing to help out this morning. Okay. So I want you, Stephanie, to get out a piece of paper. Actually, I'll have April, I'll have you take notes.
Okay.
Okay. You have a piece of paper?
Yes.
When I do it in a whole class, which you can do this in a whole class, everybody at once, each person takes notes on their own process. But when you're doing it just on one person, it's nice to have someone else take notes so you can just kind of be in the process.
Perfect.
Okay. So Stephanie, the first step is to identify an intention. So this is something that you want that feels just a little bit out of reach. What would you say?
I liked the marital harmony. I seem to lack that.
Okay. Okay, that's a good one. Okay, so so the intention could be just that simple, to have marital harmony. Is that a word you would use, or how would you say it? Peace, yeah, or understanding, or?
Yeah, just more like marital closeness, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah. Okay. So my intention is for marital closeness. Okay. Okay. So when you say that, I want to have marital closeness, what does that little negative voice inside say that tells you that that can't happen?
What does it say?
Yeah.
Yeah. It says two-way road, and only one person going that way.
Okay. Two-way road, only one person's going that way. Okay. Yeah. So that's your little voice saying, hey, I know what's going on. I can see what's happening. Mm-hmm. And that, okay. Now, how do you feel when you hear that voice inside saying it's a two-way road and only one way is going?
That it's impossible to reach that goal.
Okay. So we want to identify the feeling. Feeling is going to be one word. So mad, sad, glad are feelings. So how would you put that into a one-word feeling?
Disappointed.
Disappointed. Okay. Okay. So connect with that feeling of disappointment, and I want you to notice where you feel that in your body.
Kind of like in my shoulders, my upper body just tightens up.
Okay. Okay, perfect. So yeah, so just pay attention to how that's tightening up, the disappointed feeling. Okay, now, so as you tune into that feeling, I want you to drift back to an earlier time, could be recently or long ago, when you had this same disappointed feeling, and you could felt the same way. What memory comes up?
I'd probably say when I was in 8th grade, waiting for my mom to pick me up to go shopping for my spring frolic dress.
Okay. Okay, so you're 8th grade, you're waiting for your mom, and you're feeling disappointed.
She never showed up.
She never showed up. Okay. Okay, so do you have a vivid snapshot of that time in your mind? Okay, it's right there. Yeah, just pops right up. That's what happens. It's right under the surface.
Yep.
Okay, so I want you to get your oils out, and we're doing a drop of lavender, frankincense, and stress away. And just putting a drop of each in your palm.
Okay.
Okay, and then rub your hands together and smell. And I want you to breathe that scent right into that memory. Just go right back to that time, breathe that scent into the memory, breathe it into that feeling of disappointment, breathe it into that feeling of tenseness in your shoulders. And just do that for 30 seconds or a minute or so, and notice what happens. Notice what happens to the feeling in your body. Notice what happens to the image, and look for something new to start emerging around the edges, some new sense. And what are you aware of? What's starting to happen?
I'm totally relaxing a little bit more. Kind of like, yeah, totally released it from my shoulders. They're not heavy.
Great. So you just felt it kind of wash away, right?
Yeah, and my vision, my picture in my mind of that moment kind of started disintegrating almost.
Mm-hmm.
Just becoming smaller, not so great.
Yep. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, this is exactly what happens. In the book, I say it's the memory complex, and we start to break up that memory complex, and all those pieces start to just unravel.
Huh.
Yeah. Yeah, so I can see. And what do you feel? You feeling some lightness coming in?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and almost like I remember like all of a sudden the good moment that happened instead of the bad.
Yep, exactly. That's exactly what happens. Yep. Once that dark cloud leaves, then we can be aware of all that good stuff. Good.
Wow.
Yeah. You guys can see she looks different, right?
Definitely.
Yep. Yeah. So good. So now we're going to kind of take this new energy that's been freed up, and we're going to come back to the present situation that we started with, which was marital closeness. And when you think about that now, your intention is to have marital closeness. How possible does that feel now? What feels different?
I think that the feeling of I could maybe voice it a little bit better, or share a little bit better, maybe not with words, but with oils. But it doesn't feel so hopeless.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So how possible? So something has shifted. we've removed one layer of something that's been interfering. And I didn't ask you for a number before, but how possible does it feel now from 0 to 10 that you could have this marital closeness?
I'd say a 6.
Okay. Yeah. So what I say in the book is that if it's less than an 8, then you want to go back and see what else is there. So let's do another layer. So you're going back to that intention, wanting marital closeness. So what else does that negative voice say to you of why that can't happen?
Lack of tools, lack of communication, probably. I would say.
Okay. All right. We have lack of communication. Okay. How do you feel when your voice says, "I have lack of tools here, lack of communication"?
It kind of screams at me like I don't know how to get what I know out, to share those tools. Like I know what needs to be done, but I can't express it in a way that is accepted to my spouse. So it like screams.
Okay.
Very loud.
Yeah. Okay. So there's kind of like this inner screaming that isn't quite coming out.
Right.
Okay. So how would you put that as a feeling, as a one-word feeling?
That's a one-word feeling.
So it could, pressured, frustrated,
Probably frustrated.
crazy, frustrated. Yeah. Okay. Okay. All right. And where do you feel that frustration in your body?
Probably mostly in my head, and I seem to be clenching my hands when I talk about that.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. So connect with that feeling in your head of frustration and that clenching feeling. Okay. And drift back to an earlier time in your life when you felt the same way, that same feeling of clenching, and where does that take you to?
It's like a daily thing, so do I just pick one?
You can just pick one. Whatever pops up is fine.
Okay.
You have a snapshot in your head?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so I'm going to have you put some more oils in your hand, and we could either do the same oils. Do you have release oil with you?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, put a drop of release in your hand. Sometimes, especially on the second or third round, I'll add in release or inner child.
I have both of those.
Okay, just add some release in.
Okay.
And do the same thing. So you just go right to that snapshot. And notice, she didn't even have to tell me what that snapshot was. So this technique allows people to keep as much private as they would like. So just connect to that snapshot and connect with that feeling of clenching and frustration. And just hold that 30 seconds or so and see what happens. And what do you notice?
That's good. I gotta take my glasses off. They're getting oily.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Huh.
Take your time. It's okay.
Quiet.
So I'll just tell everyone as you're processing here that we talk about riding the wave of emotion, that when we do this, the amygdala starts to unlock and the feelings that have been held back start to surface. So there could be tears that can come up. There can be an inner kind of shaking feeling. That's okay. Whatever, it could intensify slightly at first. Whatever happens is fine. You just kind of ride the wave And I tell people that no wave lasts forever. So if you let the wave ride through you, it's going to dissipate. And then you're going to be in a different place.
Yeah,
So
that was good. I was totally riding a wave right there.
okay, yeah.
Okay.
So what did you experience? Did you have some heat or some what happened?
Yeah, I'm like sweating actually. Yeah, very warm and just tingly. Yeah, like riding the wave and just that feeling, it would kind of like rush through and then released, you know.
Perfect. Yeah, and this is something, we're familiar with the fight or flight response, but there's also a freeze response. And the freeze is when the deer is in the headlights, it's in a freeze response. And that's a survival response in the woods when it doesn't want to get seen by the wolf, but it's a bad response in the middle of the road. And so we have all these different times when there's a part of us just froze up. And when we're doing this process, sometimes a freeze response can start to get unfrozen. And that's when we tend to get some heat. We tend to get some more flushing and, even sweating or anything like that. And that's really just a part of you coming back to life that had been stuck somewhere. So that's great. And you did a great job just staying with it and staying with the process. So
And
you're still feeling heat?
yeah.
Okay. So good. So come back to the present now and this current intention of marital closeness. And how possible does that feel now? What are your thoughts and feelings now about it?
I believe that I can do it. I don't feel that door is shut now. I totally think that I can, probably when I'm a little bit more not so oily.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I could find my words and at least work on it in my head on how to portray that, and then and use my tools, my oils, diffuse it, and I mean I can see some possibility.
And that's the important thing. You may not have all the answers of how it's going to happen, but it doesn't feel impossible anymore, right?
No, it does not at all. Huh.
Fantastic. That's it. That's aroma freedom. That's the shift that we're looking for. So, but now we want to anchor that shift, and we want to help you have a tool that you can use going forward. So, from this experience, we want to develop an affirmation, something that you can say every day to help you maintain and grow in this feeling. So, what would be an affirmation that would characterize what you learned through these 2 rounds? So it could be something like, I use my tools daily to connect, or I remain open and proactive in how we connect, or it could be anything, but what would you say?
I would probably say something more like, an affirmation for me would be, I am able to portray my feelings so my husband can understand.
Nice.
Yeah, I think that's what I want to say.
And that's important because there's a translation process many times it has to go on between the woman and the man, and the man and the woman, because we speak different emotional languages many times. So, okay. So I'm able to portray my emotions in a way that my husband can understand. Is that what
Yes.
you said? Okay, so April, you're going to write that down?
Yeah.
You have that? Okay, great. And you can email that to her or send that to her, whatever. So then what you're going to do is, next step is, do you have an oil like Transformation, Believe?
All of the above.
Okay. Well, Transformation is my #1 favorite for this. Some people like Believe better, but I like, so take a drop of Transformation, put it in your palms.
Okay.
And smell. Okay, now here's where it gets fun. I'm gonna have you stand up. I'll stand up too, so you can kind of see how a little hard to do in this small office, but. So I talked about that research of getting into the positive, the power posture. So the power posture is going to be, it's either going to be something out like this, or or it could be hands on hips like so. Now, sometimes when it's especially a love relationship, sometimes an open like so, where this feeling of giving and receiving love it should feel open, and have your feet a little wider than your hips and toes pointing out. But yeah, I think does that feel good to you?
Yes, it feels good.
Okay, good. So April, what's her affirmation?
I am able to portray my feelings in a way my husband can understand.
So go ahead and say that, Stephanie.
I'm able to portray my feelings in a way my husband can understand.
And smell the oil. And then say it again.
I am able to portray my feelings in a way my husband understands.
Good. And smell. And say it again.
I am able to portray my feelings in a way my husband understands.
Good. And one more time.
I am able to portray my feelings in a way my husband understands.
Excellent. Okay, and you can have a seat. So your goal when you're doing this at home is 2 minutes a day, 2 minutes morning, 2 minutes night. So on the affirmation chart, you can make a little chart where you have, so today's the 10th, so you would put 7:10, morning, and AM and PM, and then just check off that we did the morning one, and then tonight before bed, do the same thing. When you anchor it with an oil, that has the added bonus of there's an association between this positive feeling and the scent. So every time you smell it, it brings you right back there. So I used to tell people to do it for 21 days in a row, and that's not a bad idea, and you can do that. Often what happens though is after about 3 or 4 days of doing it, something shifts. Like you may feel like you've integrated that, and now you're doing that automatically. And then maybe there's the next level that you want to go back and do another, you might want to do another process and refine your intention. So I created this as something really to be done daily. And now you don't have to do the emotional processing part daily, but you should at least be reprogramming your subconscious mind morning and night. And if you do that, then it's going to really set your focus for the day. And then whenever you're feeling stuck, if you say that affirmation and you're feeling like, well, I'm saying it, but I'm not feeling it, that means that it's time to go through the process and do the technique. So, I created it in a step-by-step process, and it's simple. There are a few things you need to practice to get it right, but everything of how to do it is in the book. Now, let me tell you a little bit about how you can learn this. Let's see where we are here. I'm going to take you over to my website so you can see here.
Perfect. Good job, Stephanie.
Yes, thank you for being willing.
Thank you. No, that was way more than I expected. Thank you.
It usually is. Okay. Okay, bear with me. We're going to end up on my desktop, which might not be pretty, but from there I'll find the web page that I need. So I am going to, where is it? I'll just create a new one. Okay, so you guys can see my desktop, right?
Yes.
Okay, so the website is aromafreedom.com. Okay, and when you get there, goes through a little bit about what it is, and then what pops up here is the Aroma Freedom Technique book. So the book is available. That's $15.95, but you can also go. Well, I'll start there. There's a few different options within that. So if you view it, you can also get under size here. I sell them as a 4-pack for $50 or a 12-pack for $140. And the reason I sell them in larger packs is because you may want to turn your team onto this. You may want to get some extra books, and you can do a class just like I did, where you're taking everyone through the technique. In this case, I just demonstrated it with one person, which is powerful, but you can also do it where everyone has that experience. And when you do it like that, it's a little different because you don't necessarily go through 2 rounds because you don't know where everybody is, but it still can be powerful. And you can also even use this as a sharing tool because it has some of the research in there. Say if you're sharing with a therapist or someone you want to understand the power of the oils for emotional processing. So we have some options for the book there. You can also, I have it as an ebook as well. And then I have a bundle where you can get the book and the ebooks. That way you get the ebook right away. So you can start reading it while you're waiting for the book to arrive. So that's pretty popular. Also, I do sessions. Where's that here? Okay, right. So if you click on this, you can do, I do 30-minute or 25-minute or 50-minute sessions where I would just be guiding you individually through this process, and you get a free ebook when you book a session as well. You can do a group video coaching call, which would be kind of like this, kind of what we just did. But maybe if you have your group and they've all read the book and you just want more practice, I might be leading everyone through it, and we would be interactive and can ask questions, can kind of fine tune what you're doing. And I've just launched an online AFT certification course. People have been wanting to be certified in this. So the Aroma Freedom Techniques certification, it's going to be done as an 8-week online training where it's an hour. Could be like a Zoom call like this, an hour a week for 8 weeks. And I'm going to be going through more of the research behind this process and the different components of it. And then there'll be lots of chances for practice. You'll get to see me demonstrate. And then we'll have chances for you to practice on each other and with my supervision, so that by the end of that, you're going to feel really confident that you know how to guide people through this process. And that could be just for your own self. You want to be able to take yourself through it because as I share in the book, I take myself through this on a regular basis. And when you have a tool that you can use for yourself, that's really powerful. But if you want to work with others, you can too. So that just launched, and that is starts September 7th. It's $297, and it shows you what's in there. And you're going to get a certificate afterwards saying that you're certified in this. And you can actually call yourself a certified AFT practitioner. I have some people from Asia that are asking me if I could change the time. So this time is a daytime. It's a 3 p.m. I'm going to be doing probably a morning so that it will be evening over there. And then as they fill up, I can do more as well. But it's limited to 16 people per block so that there's enough chance for interaction and so on. What else is in here? Yeah, so that's pretty much the idea. And then April, I think we talked about, I was gonna make a special offer for your people that after the call today, if you want, I'm gonna give you 20% off if you want to get the technique, the book and ebook bundle. And actually, you know what? I will give you 20% off of anything up until midnight tonight, except for the online training, except for the certification process. But anything else, if you want a session, if you want to get a bundle of books, I'll just make it 20% off. And the code you're going to use is April 20. So
wow, that's fantastic. Thank you so much.
So if you just put in April 20, then you can use that discount code. And I'm going to stop the sharing so I can see you guys again. So, okay, I don't know if you want to open up for any questions or anything else you wanted to say, April, but I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you. Great presentation, Doctor. I'm blown away by it. I can't wait to get the books myself. I'm definitely jumping on that. And I could see our whole team doing a class on this. Many of our teams are going to branch out with this one. I already know this. So let's see, it's almost at the top of the hour and I want to honor everybody's time. How about if we take 1 or 2 questions?
Sure.
Okay, who wants to ask a question? Just go ahead and unmute yourself.
Okay, I have a question.
Okay.
So can you repeat again, like I should probably do this again and again until it becomes a normal routine for me?
Right. So what you want to do is you want to make a little chart, and every day, at least for 3 days,
Okay.
morning and night, you're going to be saying your affirmation for 2 minutes. Set your iPhone timer for 2 minutes, and you just say that affirmation with your oils in that posture, and realize that when you're saying it, you're programming your subconscious mind. There are some times when you're going to say it, and you're like, well, I don't feel that way. It doesn't feel true to me. But remember that you're doing it to program your mind, to get to remind you of that possibility and to kind of get you into that place. So do that morning and night. But just be aware as you're saying it also, it may change. You may feel an impulse to add a word, or you may feel an impulse to change how you're saying it. Or it may just feel so true that so many good things are happening with that you feel complete there, and then you can ask, but you don't want to go a day without an affirmation. So if that feels complete, then you say, okay, well, what do I want to affirm now? I accomplished this. What's the next step? And you could say, well, I want us to really go on that vacation we've been wanting to, but I don't know how we're going to do it. So, okay, start setting that intention, and then identify, where's the block to that. So have it be an ongoing process, but for the next few days, just use that affirmation as your program. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you so much.
Yep.
Anyone else? One more question.
Yes, I have a question.
That's Kathy Wine speaking.
Yes,
Okay.
Kathy White. Hi, Dr. Benjamin. Thank you so much for your time today.
Sure.
I've learned so much. Dr. Benjamin, my question is, if I was to do a single session with you, are you restricted to the times that you are able to do this?
No, I would just work with you, with my schedule. I have different availabilities. So yeah, we would just look for a time that would work for both of us.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much.
Sure. Yep. So if anyone wants a session, you purchase it online, and then I'll get the notification that you got it, and I'll reach out to you through message or something, and we'll just go back and forth till we find the time.
Great. Thank you.
And Doctor, I wanted to verify, you said 20% off everything except the big stuff till midnight tonight. Is that Eastern Standard Time?
Yes.
Okay, he's on the East Coast, guys. He's in New York. So we have an extra hour to take advantage of that.
And actually, let me, it'll take just a minute for me to go in and get that code set up for everything. So if you don't see it in right away, actually, let me see if I can do it right now here.
Yeah, perfect.
Because, okay. Any other questions?
We have lots going on in the chat. I don't know if we can see that after the fact. I think I've programmed it to save the chat. Lots of good comments in the chat. Everybody got so much out of it. They especially like the posturing technique.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else?
Okay, let me just add this right now here. Okay, we're gonna do April 20.
I like the sound of that.
Yeah. Where do you live, April?
I'm in San Antonio, Texas.
Okay.
Many on here are on the West Coast in Washington area. In the Washington area.
Okay.
That's where Stephanie was, and some of us are in Texas. Carol's traveling at the moment. Carol's on the West Coast. Stephanie says she's doing this every day. Me too, Stephanie.
Uh-huh.
I feel like overly happy right now.
Yeah, just go with it. Yep, just let it wash through you.
That's awesome.
Okay. So you know what? It's not letting me customize it quite like that. So what I'll do is I'm just going to make it be for all orders, but just don't use it if you're going to register for the certification. Okay.
Fair enough.
Okay. But anything else on there, I have it set up so it'll go. Just do it separately. If you're going to do the certification, just do that as a separate order.
Easy peasy.
Okay.
Thank
Great.
you
Well,
so much.
it was really enjoyable to work with you guys, and you know, I'm available. You know how to reach me now through my website. And April, thanks for having me on, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Doctor. I will be posting your website again in our Facebook event, and
Okay.
some more things about your book and all the good stuff. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. Okay, bye-bye.
Have a great weekend, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.